We are live, tuned in to the Porter Brothers. We got a big show today, and we'll be rocking with you for the next hour on the smartmoneyculture.tv. And we'll bring on Bruce, we'll bring on Rice, crypto special guest today, and we'll be talking about your finances, your markets, your stock markets, and the world of politics, the political situation.
Yes, the political situation, the money situation, everything that's going on in the world. We talk about it here on the Porter Brothers Show, our second show of the day. We're adding another one.
Yeah, buddy. And you know, it takes a guy like you to really pull it off. You're working 24/7, 365.
It is really something else. 5 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. I am up and at it. I really enjoyed, of course. I love doing shows, and it's amazing if you want to influence people, you got to be on the mic, right? You got to be on the mic. If you're not on the mic, it's hard to influence people, and so that's the deal. So we, of course, we're there on television in Texas and Louisiana. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to us. We know there's millions of reach there, and we know there's hundreds of thousands of people per day that tune in. And that's really exciting and really good to hear. And hats off to Fly Mackey. He's doing a heck of a job putting all of that together. And from what I understand, we're about to grow. He's made some big deals out at the Super Bowl. And we're about to 6x. Yeah. Something
Our
like
viewers?
No. We're about to 8x.
Our market cap. Yeah, lots of more viewing territory coming up.
Yeah, that probably as well. Well, the goal, as you know, is 50 million by the end of the year. So that's what we're pushing for. If this gets tightened up, that will be a considerable push to that. Of course, we really appreciate everybody that tunes in as well on X. One of my favorite platforms of all times, on X, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, everywhere else. The world is crazy right now, and really one of the reasons why we added, of course, the second show, the Porter Brothers Show, is because there's so much going on between 5 a.m. in Texas and 11 a.m. in Texas, or 6 a.m. on the East Coast, or in 12 noon. I mean, just so much happens. And as we start to add this next show, it'll be the same type of deal. So we're really growing. Of course, the Global Boost Media really working hard in there, but it's Smart Money Culture TV. We really put the big money on the line here, and with the master plan to really get us out there and put us together, and allows us to say really whatever we want. Bruce, I don't want you to not say what you want to say. I want you to say what you want to say. That's what he tells me. Except just don't cuss. Just don't cuss, he tells me. Which is pretty easy for me.
No
swearing. Rice Crypto, you hear us? There's no swearing. I didn't have this stern talk with him this morning. No, actually, the truth is, most people when you come on, they know they're on TV, and they know what not to say and what to say. So interesting stuff, really. The CPI data came out today. You saw, probably, maybe you didn't see, the markets took a nice dive. Pretty well expected. There were some indicators that the CPI, the inflation was going to be, they were going to report it lower. Even if it's just reported lower, it doesn't mean it's really lower. I just actually put some numbers out on my X account that I want to show you guys, because 3.1% is not indicative of what is actually going on. Here are the real numbers right here. The actual inflation, I said. The core CPI up 3.1%. Actual inflation. Frozen drinks were up nearly 30%. Car insurance, 20%. Sports tickets up 13.5%. Steaks are up 10%. I'm sure we all noticed that. I'm sure we all noticed frozen drinks too. Well, not really. I don't really drink frozen drinks. Car insurance that we noticed.
Then the cost of having a girlfriend is like absolutely through the roof. I mean, my God, Valentine's Day just is. I'm glad the market pumped. I'm glad the market.
That it might have. Anyway, I'm gonna not touch that one. So, vending machines and the food trucks are up 10%. Okay, that's the vending machines. The food trucks 10%. Veterinary services are up nearly 10%. Baby food up near 10%, 8.7%. Financial services up 8%, over 8%. Hot dogs. I mean, come on.
Yeah, baby food should have been put into that $95 billion bill that they just passed.
Baby food should be put into the bill. Why don't we stop dropping bombs and put some baby food in there, folks?
Sounds like a plan.
You know, actually, these guys that love the war so much, but if they just focused on having more kids, we'd be way better off than killing kids over in some far off lands that will probably come back to bite us here at the homeland. Hospital visits, hospital services are up over 6.5%. Takeout is up 5%. So I don't know what the heck they're talking about. This core 3%. Okay, like that's like, you know, and we talk to people often, and it's like, well, the you know, it's this, that, and the other, and yeah, no, the inflation is not that bad, and this and that, and I'm like, I don't know what these people are talking about, because inflation for the average person out there is through the roof. I don't even have eggs on here. Oh, and this is for January. Well, that's what it said anyway. I totally took this from Rep Byron's X account, by the way. I didn't have room to credit him on the thing, so I figured I'd credit him on air. That's where I got the numbers. It said for January. I don't know if that's just really up for January or if that's up from when Biden took office or not. But either way, it is pretty crazy. Here is the link for Rice Crypto. There is. I haven't seen Rice Crypto in a while. Rice Crypto is a pretty well-known guy, very well liked. Everybody likes Rice Crypto. He's a good guy, you know. He's a good guy. Very good guy. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So the markets, of course, responded because everybody is thinking, oh, okay, we're going to get, you know, we're going to get finally some relief from these high rates, these high interest rates, and this hawkish Federal Reserve, this private entity that's taxing you without you knowing it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. I keep explaining it every day because I explain it every day, and a new person understands every day. At least one new person understands every day, and probably a lot more. If you realized that this private entity called the Federal Reserve was taxing you way more than your government, you'd be upset as me, yelling and screaming every day on TV. You'd be out in the streets. We'd be having another tea party. Do you think they have fun at the tea party?
You'd be calling Bruce and telling him to say more. Say more, Bruce. Don't stop.
Add 2 more shows. Don't add 1 more show. Add 2. Just go on TV all day. It's bad. Let me explain the scam one more time. Okay, here's the scam. You're like, oh, 95 billion. So the Senate passes 95 billion. You're so used to hearing these numbers. And the deal is that it's different now than it ever was because they've printed up so much more money and it's so out of control because now they've gotten used to it. The taxation system is really just the burn. They don't need the tax at all. They just want that money out of your hands so that you can't use it. It helps them with inflation. Okay, that's it. Because the new system, the way it works is they just print whatever they want. And you're taxed out of inflation. They don't even need the tax anymore. They just take whatever they want from inflation. So the 95 billion that is there, that Senate just passed, that's now going to go to the House. And I know it's Speaker Mike Johnson says it's dead on arrival. But guys, $95 billion is a lot of money it's a lot of money for bribes. It's a lot of money for putting people's hands, for paying people off and everything else. So I wouldn't say it's dead on arrival. I think it's very likely to pass in some form or another, even if they change the name or something like that. Very, very likely. Already passed the Senate. Crossed a huge hurdle there. John Cornyn just got called out by Texas Attorney General. By your Texas Attorney General, just got called out hardcore for supporting the everybody else's borders except theirs. And so he already paid the political parties. John Cornyn already did it. He stayed up all night and he protected everybody else's borders but yours. And so that's already been paid. Yeah, he doesn't want to do it again, right? So now that it's passed the Senate, that's a big hurdle. And so now they have this bill there at the House. And it's they can also bypass the speaker. There's a mechanism in there where they can bypass the speaker. It's not used very often, but they can do it, and then they can pass the bill. So the $95 billion. All right. So here's the way to do it. So the Congress, they say, okay, we want to send $100 billion. We'll call it 95, whatever. It's $95 billion. We want to send this $95 billion over to these wars in Israel and Ukraine. We've been funding wars ever since the central bank started, ever since the Federal Reserve started, right? So we want to send this $100 billion overseas. But if we tell the American people we're going to tax you, each of you, this amount, and that to pay for it, you would say no. Everybody would say no. And if they did it, you'd be out in the streets. You'd say absolutely not. So what they do is they borrow, the central bank fronts the paper money, front them the money, and then they use that to pay it. And the central bank says, don't worry, we'll just collect on the back end. And the central bank dilutes your dollars and collects the money on the back end. And they tax you that way. And the whole time, they make money on the interest of it. $1.6 trillion in interest that we're paying per year on this $34 trillion of so-called debt, which is really nothing. We don't need to borrow US dollars from a central bank that's not part of the government. It's unbelievable. It's the biggest scam in the world. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let me just check here. I think we're going to commercials. Yes, we are on commercials and Smart Money Culture TV. When we come back, let me see here. Should we play a little bit of the market watch from this morning?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was a good one.
Bitcoin reaching over 50. I mean,
and then predicting the pullback, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always good to be cautious. Can't just be a permanent bull.
Here's Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He has his official endorsement. I reposted it on my X feed. He says, vote for real Mitch Little. Let me give this guy a follow here. Am I following him? I'm following him. He looks like a patriot. You can tell because he's got the beard. All right. Look at this. Trump's court appearances for 2024. Unbelievable, guys.
Yeah, that's hot, man. That's hot.
It's unbelievable.
You know you're popular when you got a Courtcella.
A Courtcella. This is why I'm supporting Imran Khan in Pakistan, because they're doing the same thing to him, so he must be good.
Yeah.
Let's just count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Court appearances. This is crazy.
That's hot, man. He's gonna be big time, throughout the year. This
CPI stuff, so this actual inflation, that stuff's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Attorney General Ken Paxton says, unsurprisingly, America last rhino. Republican in name only is what that stands for, if you don't know. John Cornyn has once again joined hands with the Biden administration to fund and prioritize foreign wars over national security crisis at the southern border. And then he quotes a post here. He says, he quotes this post from Michael Quinn. While Texans slept, John Cornyn sent $95 billion to help other countries with their border problems. Question, when was the last time John Cornyn stayed up all night fighting for our border? And then Ken Paxton says, this question is for all Texans should be asking. Unbelievable. John Cornyn stayed up all night to defend other countries' borders, but not America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it shows.
It shows. This is the great Rand Paul talking about this $95 billion right here.
Senate Democrat leader, open the champagne, pop the cork. The Senate Democrat leader and the Republican leader are on their way to Kiev. They've got $60 billion they're bringing. I don't know if it'll be cash in pallets, but they're taking your money to Kiev. Now, they didn't have much time, really no time and no money to do anything about our border. We're being invaded. A literal invasion's coming across our border. 800,000 people came illegally in the last month. And all they had time to do in the Senate was get the money, get the cash pallets, load the planes, get the champagne ready, and fly to Kiev. Open the champagne, pop the cork.
Yeah. And Ukraine's borders are tight, man. You're not getting in and out of there without some issues.
I can only imagine what they're going to do over there. They're going to have a good time. I'll guarantee you that. They're going to have a good time with their $95 billion. You know, the deal is, guys, to get stuff done in the world, it takes money, right? And so in order to get stuff done, you need money. So you need slush money too, you know. So a lot of that $95 billion goes to friends, it goes to their own pockets, that's the way it works. That's the way it works. And it's your money. That's why I want everybody to understand, like, you're going to feel that. Those numbers I showed you, 10% up on stakes, you're going to go up more. That's how they're going to take the money from you. That's the tax. Inflation is tax. Inflation is tax. So real quick, I do want to go into our market watch, but just to show you some stuff here, the Dow Jones Industrial is down over 1%, for about 450 points. That's a pretty big move for the Dow. This year, they've pretty much kept it under control. Not seeing a whole lot of moves like that. Pull back on Bitcoin here. We have, of course, we were up above, well above 50 grand, 53.69. We hit down trading about 48,584. Now, if you look at this daily, let me just reload my page because okay. If you look at the daily, you know, this could really fill in quite a bit here. Okay. So, you know, keep that in mind. That's normally what markets do. Now, Bitcoin could be so bullish that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Okay. That happens. But in financial services and whatnot, we're not financial planners or whatever, but we're obviously, this is our space. It fills back in normally. That's normally the way markets work. Okay. Let's just look at gold futures prices. Gold down as well. 2008. That is the lowest I have seen it almost in a while. That is a pretty decent price. But again, now if the US dollar, if they're going to keep interest rates high because they're going to keep printing money, they really don't have much choice. It's exactly right, Charlie. Then that is going to make the dollar stronger, and that's going to keep these assets going down. Because as the dollar goes up in value, of course, the the other assets normally go down. It's normally the way it works. Okay. All right, let's play. Let me pull up our main man here. Let's at least watch some of it before we bring on our good friend Rice Crypto. I want to thank you guys again for joining in Louisiana and Texas. Impact Money. This is our 5 a.m. show. This is from our 5 a.m. show. Impact Money. Let me just doesn't look like it wants to load here for me. Let's see what we got.
Did you see Biden's picture with the laser eyes for Bitcoin to 100 grand?
Maybe that's what it was about. I mean, Bidenomics. Bidenomics is right. We're all feeling it. He makes Jimmy Carter look like Ernestine. He makes Jimmy Carter look good. He makes Jimmy Carter look like a great president.
Yeah.
Broadcast is ended. All right.
Don't do that.
I'm not sure why it won't load. Well, we have plenty to talk about anyway, but it was a good episode. Maybe I'll give it a minute and see if I could also play it from somewhere else. Let me see here. There was some pretty good stuff here. Yep. All right, here we go. Good morning, world. Here we go.
James Khan, Sir James Khan in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Son of, sorry, daughter of, sorry. That was Jemima Goldsmith. So, yeah, he's a very, very, very popular, of course. I mean, I understand he possibly even won the election whilst even being in prison. PowerPoint, actually, is probably the best way to do it. And I trust you can see my screen there.
Yes.
So we've got, I wanted to touch on, we've obviously got interest rates, well, not interest rates, sorry, we've got CPI out today, which is inflation, very, very important. It drives interest rates. And I've been talking quite a little bit about potentially upcoming recession in the US, but it's actually quite a rosy picture at the moment. So I just wanted to look at some of the signs that potentially signal a recession, indicators of a recession. So we've got a decline in real GDP, and we can basically tick or cross these. Well, we haven't had a decline in real GDP. In fact, real GDP, I understand, is actually still going up in the US. So GDP is basically, you know, there's no recession signs there as yet. Decline in real income after inflation. Again, incomes are still staying pretty robust. So that's not a bad sign, not a sign of recession coming. Rise in unemployment. Well, unemployment is currently 3.7% in the US, which is absolutely amazing. And the long-term average unemployment rate in the US is 5.7%. So we're a full 2 percentage points below that at 3.7, although it was 3.4% last year, at one point last year. So it has begun to edge up a little bit, but it's still in such a really good situation. You know, the unemployment rate is still very, very low in the US. So it's in a good situation at the moment, but it's beginning to see a little bit of erosion that unemployment is rising a little bit. Then we've got stagnation of industrial production and retail sales. Well, we'll look at that. Industrial production is staying reasonably robust, and retail sales, well, we're beginning to see a little bit of a decline, and we'll just look at that here. This is looking at retail sales. And we can see that obviously in 2020, they fell off a cliff with COVID. And then there's that massive stimulus package. And they have been declining consistently here. Retail sales have been declining. They're still in positive territory. So that's not a bad sign, the fact they're in positive, and it's kind of long-term, it's not a bad situation to be in. But the fact it's been on such a steady decline, the trend is still currently, you know, down. So we'll need to watch that, you know, fairly carefully to see where things go. Now, this is what I showed you. This is actually what's coming up retail sales. Interestingly, again, just mentioning that on the decline, well, the previous reading was 0.6%. The forecast, which is, I think they're due out this Thursday, so only a couple of days' time, the forecast is for a fall to minus 0.1% on retail sales. So potentially we really are beginning to see signs of a slowdown, but it's very, very early days. This is the situation over the past 50 years when you look at inflation and recession and the relationship between them. As I've said before, every time you get a spike here in interest rates and inflation in particular, when you get a spike in inflation, that usually coincides with a recession. So you can see here back in 73, here in 1980, we're still suffering recessions in the early 80s there. 1990, again, a spike up there with inflation and associated with recession. Again, here, spike up, recession. Here, we didn't get a recession immediately there, but it did come shortly after with the further spike up in inflation. We got quite a serious recession there. That was associated with the financial crash of 2008 onwards. So that was a very serious recession. That's what started the money printing back then. And then now we've had this very serious rise in inflation, and they've raised interest rates. They've not yet begun to drop interest rates. But as we've had this spike, you would normally expect it to be associated with a recession, and we've not yet seen that. So I'd just say I would say we are on recession watch. And quite interestingly, I'm looking at what the market is projecting, the probability of recession in the US. Well, it's not that high, although it's above 50-50. Right now, there's a 54.49%, this is according to the markets, a 54% chance of recession coming in, this year, basically. And this was the figure, right up to date figure, Feb 24. That was the expectation or the projection of the likelihood of a recession. And that actually is looking as though it's projected to rise. The likelihood of recession is projected to rise into the future. That figure there should be 24, not 23. So there is a more chance. The chances are that we're likely to see recession, moving forward. And here's just another look at the expectations of whether we're going to see recession through early 24. And the expectations are, and this is effectively market expectations, and this is actually a famous analyst here, he expects recession into 2024, some point early-ish 2024. So we're not yet seeing it, but obviously the signs are there. Now this was the previous, it was only, it might even be yesterday, the expectation for the inflation rate coming out later this afternoon. It's only a couple of hours away. And even in one day, the actual rate has already, the forecast has fallen again. So we are expecting inflation to fall. Now that obviously is a good sign as we fall towards the 2% target, but they have a real history of overshooting the target. So it's highly likely if inflation is falling at this rapid rate, it's going to overshoot the 2% target, go below that, and that's where you'll see potentially moving into a deflationary world again. And that's precisely what we had back in 2008.
Their house.
The house, their investment. Let's see what today brings for this. At the moment, this is all higher highs and higher lows, as we said yesterday. And we've got quite an impulsive move here with the solid green candles moving up. And we've got a really choppy move here, which is indicative of a corrective move to the downside. So when you're seeing upside in the direction of the trend, you're seeing a lot of solid green candles here, and then choppiness to the side. Then the next move up, big green candles, and then choppiness to the side. The next big move up, big green candles, choppiness to the side. So I would expect that we're probably going to see more movement up on dollar index at the moment as things stand from this. And I stand to be corrected, and let's see what inflation comes out as. But maybe it won't be falling quite as fast as people expect. So we may yet see a little bit higher to come on dollar index. That's how.
And that dollar index, just to kind of break it down for you, that is the strength of the U.S. dollar. That's what he's talking about there. So the dollar index goes up, and for the most part, assets, gold, Bitcoin, oil, other commodities go down. That's normally the way it works. So it's interesting the way that is all playing out there. So I wanted to talk a little bit as well. So the U.S. has rejected Putin's olive branch, Putin's peace plan. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they felt it necessary to reject the peace plan over there. U.S. rejects Putin's peace deal, and then of course they vote to send money over for. Basically, what we have is a system where we are showing love with making money off of war, that it appears that we can't stop ourselves. It's like we just can't help ourselves. We're making so much money on the wars that we can't stop them. So pretty interesting stuff. I wanted to have enough time with our good friend Mr. Rice Crypto here. He is in the backstage. Rice, are you with us? There he is. There he is. Before I bring him up here, Mr. Rice Crypto, the man himself.
What's going on, gentlemen? Thanks for the invitation, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's been a while since I've seen you guys in person.
Rice. Yeah.
Good to see you, Mr. Porters.
Well, it is pretty fun. We've been doing these two shows now for quite a while here. It's always fun to be on the mic. You know how it is. You've grown your following your channel for quite a while now. Been in space for a long time. Here we are again. I know we have a little bit of a pullback today, but Bitcoin's back at 50 grand. Ethereum's back over. It's flirting with 3,000 again. It looks like we're going to have a major altcoin rally, whether it's this week or a few weeks from now. How does it feel?
I mean, it feels good. I like to see the price action up. I'm just kind of like, and I know we haven't talked, but I have a very negative outlook on the way the direction that cryptocurrency is headed based off of like why I got into space. So I came at this from a cypherpunk libertarian mindset, and now kind of be your own bank, and now it's how can we work with the banks.
Well, that's what I always say, guys. Like everyone's like, okay, now pump my bags. All right, pump my bag with ETFs, pump my bags, and then everybody's supposed to buy paper Bitcoin. Guys, it's not about buying paper Bitcoin.
Right.
It's about buying real Bitcoins. You're supposed to buy these things. You're supposed to stuff them away, never tell anybody about them. I didn't say that. You're supposed to, be your own bank. Exactly.
Right. And it's so, I mean, of course, I still love cryptocurrency. I'm just really, really having a hard time with the direction of the space. And I've been feeling like this for about a year and a half. I just still feel like I have a role to play, regardless of what's happening in the crypto space, to kind of keep that cypherpunk mentality, that ethos alive and well. There's a lot of people in the space that are still building in that kind of mentality. So I'm trying to put a lot of focus and support in that effort versus like your centralized blockchains like Solana that are able to turn themselves off whenever they choose to.
Well, that's so funny, right? You brought that up because they did it just the other day again. I'm sure you heard about that, right?
No, yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the last time they were doing that, guys, they were like, pushing through different transactions. And so it's like, it's actually even worse than a bank, because at least the bank is supposedly has some regulations. We're talking about, I mean, you saw, FTX and Solana basically together. If you want to ask me, I mean, I should say allegedly or some other thing to protect myself. But they ripped everybody off. They paid off all of these. People here in Washington in the swamp. No one gave any money back.
No, they didn't have to, though. They actually, they charged them. They charged Sam Bankman-Fried with the political stuff, and they were saying they were going to force the politicians to return the funds because it was going to go back to customers because it was customer money to begin with. But the charges on that were ultimately dropped, so they never pursued it. They waited a few months, and it looks like we're, I don't know, a little over a month or around a month away for sentencing for SBF. So, I really appreciate what cryptocurrency, what Satoshi Nakamoto had created with Bitcoin. And again, I'm just trying to keep that ethos alive and trying to share as much wisdom with people, especially with, people being attracted by dollar signs, like what's happening with Solana, to use a good example. So, Yeah, I just kind of feel that need to do that. Other than that, man, I mean, I'm just kind of paying attention to what's happening to the global economic climate, because everything that's happening around the world, there's so much going on, not only in our own country, but around the world, that there's so many different things that could affect the markets entirely. Everybody's kind of got this bull market's off. We're off to the races, 100K, 500K and beyond. We're never going down ever again. And, people just need to kind of
It'll never be this
ground
cheap
themselves
ever
in
again.
reality.
Ever again? If we had $1 for every time we were told that over our career, right? It'll never be.
I mean, if some of these people actually studied economics and paid attention to what's happening, they wouldn't have that kind of an outlook. That's why I don't have that kind of outlook. And we don't normally see this kind of price action happening before a halving. I know we have never had an ETF before.
Well,
so there's a lot of different things in play.
That is exactly right. Normally, it's a big, it's like everyone thinks it's going to pump. It's going to pump. Oh my gosh, it's going to pump. The halving is coming. It's going to pump. It's going to pump. The halving's coming. And then it doesn't really pump. And then the pump comes like months later after the halving.
Right. And we have a big, huge event taking place, I think, March 9th with the Federal Reserve overnight repurchase loans. They're going to stop doing the loans, and it's going to cause a liquidity issue. We already have kind of a global liquidity issue. We see the stock market still hitting all-time highs, and
almost every day. It's like every time
when we're experiencing recession, 100% recession, even though people want to ignore the fact that we're not in that direction by changing definitions and how we judge whether or not we are in a recession. So I've come to the conclusion that this is just a rigged game, and we just got to figure out how to play it the best that we can.
It's rigged, right? And that was, I don't know if you saw, it was trending on X the other day. Rigged.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, it was trending. I guess I'm keyed in, I've traveled a lot, so I'm keyed in a lot to international trends as well. Probably the people I follow and follow back and everything. But I think it had to do with Pakistan. But it was enough of our own people saying things were rigged too that it was trending, And it's all over the world. It's all over the world, and it's interesting. And so it's good to sometimes talk. We have our good friends from overseas who joins us every morning, and it's different when you look at it from the outside looking in, because when you're on the outside looking in, you don't experience, like I don't know if you saw at the beginning of the show, but I put up our actual inflation.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like your car insurance is up 20%. Your car insurance,
ironically, it's on the same street as me, maybe 10 houses down from where I live. There's a guy that works for the government I forget the Department of Government, but he deals with the CPI data, like the whatever department actually puts out the CPI data. He won't even really explain much to me because of NDAs and stuff like that. I've tried having very, very in-depth conversations with him.
Come over, have a beer. Come on, tell me.
Yeah, well, I've tried. And I think, he knows that I'm a content creator, and he knows that I'm, outspoken against what the Federal Reserve is doing. So, he takes his NDA very, very fucking serious. Excuse me, no swearing. Very seriously.
You can't curse. I don't know if you saw that part.
I did, and I was trying to catch it. Hopefully, I don't think I said it fully, but I think people understood what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
Yep. Well, I don't think you quite made it out, but yeah, that's it's pretty interesting. It's just out of control, and people don't understand. And I that's one of the things I come on this show and I talk about it every single day. The scam that we have with the Federal Reserve, this privately held entity that is making it's producing the money. We don't need to borrow the money from it. And every $100, we're spending $3 to borrow it. Number one, and then number two, they're stealing it. They're stealing it from everybody. And people don't realize we've already spent $1.6 trillion this year. If this bill gets approved, it'll be another 100, it'll be $1.7 trillion this year. And just to put that in perspective, we spent $6.12 trillion all of last year. That's how much the Treasury Department says the government spent. So at this rate, we're going to go from 6.1 trillion, let's just call it 6 trillion, to like 18 trillion.
Yeah, I mean, Jerome Powell recently, I think it might have been in a 60-minute interview, said that the government spending isn't sustainable.
Right.
Like it's
He did.
getting
He
way
said
out
it
of hand, and
himself.
this is coming from the Federal Reserve, who's actually the ones controlling the rigged game. The sad thing is, with where we are today in history with the Federal Reserve, is people can go back and read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island from G. Edward Griffin. I've had on my show a couple times.
Nice.
And he really explains like what took place with the Federal Reserve, and as far as the creation of how it came about and what the goals were. And since the Federal Reserve has gotten in control of the U.S. dollar, we've seen nothing but a loss of purchasing power.
Yes.
From anytime in generally mid 1920s, you could have exchanged a $20 bill for an ounce of gold, and vice versa. And you
Right.
could have bought a suit for an ounce of gold or a $20 bill. Now, fast forward to today, you can't buy a suit with a $20 bill, but you can buy a suit with an ounce of gold, which is about $2,000.
Right.
So gold has maintained its value. That gives you an idea of how much the dollar's lost value. Then we go through this whole situation of the World War I, World War II, going through what happened in 1933 with the Banking Act, the Securities Act, all of that. Then we go to Bretton Woods, where the U.S. dollar was made the world reserve currency because the dollar was as good as gold. But then you fast forward to 1971, and Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. And our money is not constitutionally backed by gold or silver. There's nothing technically backing it. It's now fiat. And we are actually playing a live action role playing game of Monopoly because the money is not real. That's the world that we live in today. Everything that we pay, it's just debt. Everything is based on debt and usury, and we're slaves to the system, unfortunately.
We are slaves. We're owned. People don't realize.
Crypto's our answer out, but then you have the banks coming in.
I know.
With the ETFs trying to take over, and how much money are they going to be donating to Bitcoin developers?
Well, not only that, but they raised the price so much that it's hard to use, and they can manipulate it so much. I mean, you and I have been in the space for a long time. When you have whales that are holding that much of the coin, they can do a lot with. They can do almost whatever they want to with it. Almost whatever they want. I mean, if the ETFs, which are their band of brothers in themselves, that is just like we have a monetary revolution. Those guys are not part of the monetary revolution. They're the opposite. And so, but now they're holding such an amount that if they want to bring the price down, they bring the price down. If they want to push the price up, they push the price up. And we saw that some of that, of course, we were up at 50,000. And then, of course, the ETF was approved and those guys took profits, brought it back down. And, of course, we're going to continue to see the manipulation. It is scary to tell people to buy Bitcoin. I'll tell you that right now. You're better off, in my opinion, buying some lower cap coins that aren't capitalized as much, because it's scary to say it one way or the other.
I still think people should diversify, though, and I still think that people should try to own at least one Bitcoin, as if possible. And if you take a dollar cost average strategy, there's an awesome website, DCABTC, which would be dollar cost average Bitcoin, DCABTC.com. And it's a calculator that kind of shows you, like, had you invested $10 a week, $10 a month, whatever the situation might be, whatever you could afford, however many years ago, and whatever increment period that you're deciding to buy, because that's the whole point of dollar cost averaging, is you buy no matter what the price of what it is that you're purchasing, so that you reduce the volatility of the up and down price action.
Here's the website that Rice is talking about here. It's dcabtc.com.
Yeah.
And it has it right there.
Go back to like 5 years ago with the accumulation, and starting 5 years ago, and just leave it set where it's at with the money amount.
Okay.
And
$1,570 invested. I did 5 years.
Yeah, but go starting at 5 years ago, because you're looking at
5 years, starting 5 years ago. Got
it.
Okay.
And then come back up and let's see where we're at with the average right here. So it tells you that you would have invested X amount, which would have been $2,610. The total value of it today would be worth $4,008. Now, the reason I said change it to 5 versus 3 is because we've had all-time highs that we haven't crossed back over. So there's still technically some people that are in the red, depending on when they purchase Bitcoin. If they purchase Bitcoin anywhere above the 50K price.
Oh, yeah.
And there were a lot of people that unfortunately buying in at the tops.
That's how they roll. That's how
the retail exit liquidity.
Yes, that's how it works. We talk about it. Actually, we talk about that quite a bit too. A lot of the big guys got out of this pump in the lower to mid 40s. Retail kind of, and then you had some big boys in there too pushing it up. We could see a fairly decent retracement here. I mean, it's hard to say because it's just hard to say. I mean,
some people are talking about super cycles. Some people are talking about shortened cycles that we may hit all-time highs earlier based off of like cycles kind of speeding up. So, but we don't really technically know where we're at. We're kind of in unknown territory, and you have a lot of people that do technical analysis and try to compare things from the past.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, it's a little bit different of a situation when you have the combination of. As much as I'm not a fan of the ETF, that is something that's obviously been that the markets have been wanting. And now that it's here, it's adding an extra element. And then you got to add all the extra elements of everything else on top of it, which is like at any point, a black swan could just take place. And there's a plethora of things that could happen. So we're just in like really kind of like a minefield right now.
We're in a minefield. I mean, we take, you get one big hit here on the homeland. I'm talking a big one. I'm not talking, something little. I'm talking a big hit, which, look, guys.
Well, they're talking about cyber attack.
Yeah, we could have a big cyber attack. We could have, there's a lot of things that could happen. We have so many people that have come over here illegally. We don't even know who they are. It's a very porous border. We are bombing. We're bombing so many countries.
We've made a lot of enemies, and we have an open door for all of our enemies to come in. And like, if just a few countries or just terrorist groups wanted to coordinate, they've got a perfect opportunity to like do something almost kind of like what you would see in Fight Club with Project Mayhem.
You just run this.
You can coordinate something basically. I mean, I've watched a lot of stuff when it comes to this. When it comes to the migrants, the migration of what's taking place and who's coming in and who's helping to facilitate it.
Oh yeah.
It's very alarming. People
listen, man. It's a conspiracy.
No,
we're not even really allowed to talk about it. We can't even really talk about it. But it's a conspiracy. I was talking about it a bit more earlier, and I said, "All right, guys, whatever." I mean, I don't need to. I'll talk about it to a point, but just like Alex Jones stopped talking about it a bit. He's like, "Well, all right, fine."
I think Alex Jones is controlled, so he's going to do.
Well, I quite possibly.
I think there's a lot of that, unfortunately, and I don't want people to think I'm just being negative. I'm just a realist when it comes to the situation. I still have hope with humanity, and I think that we ultimately, the good side is going to win this when it comes down to the battle being over.
Yeah, it's going to take
the light always outshines the darkness.
So I say there's only one way to stop this. We must end the Fed. The central bank, the Federal Reserve, will pay for all wars because they have a mechanism to tax Americans without us having any recourse. Taxation without representation. They print the money, they loan it to the government, and then they tax us through inflation. And here's just a list. And this isn't even all of them. They're missing countries.
The United States has bombed all of the following countries since World War II. To begin, we do not have to travel far. In Central America, the United States has bombed Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Grenada, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. Moving across the ocean to Africa, we have Libya, Sudan, and Somalia. In Europe, the list consists of former Yugoslavian countries, namely Serbia, Bosnia, Kosovo, and Montenegro. Next is the Middle East, where the US dropped bombs on Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Moving to East Asia, we have Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, and Korea. Finally, during the bombardment of Belgrade, a few bombs hit the Chinese embassy, so I've included China to the list as well. This is how the completed map looks like.
That's crazy.
Like crazy because you get in the habit of saying we, and David and I are really trying to not say we because it's not us.
No, it's them.
It's them.
Yeah.
They've taken over our government. They have total control. The central bank has total control of our government. Congress really is just. I mean, the reason we can't change anything, we can't get them to do anything, is because they don't work for us. They literally don't work for us.
No, it's not the country that was founded by our founding fathers. It has the same name, but it's a corporate takeover. I mean, what we had a lot of things transpire, but ultimately the Civil War, after the Civil War, they talked about reconstruction of the republic, and that never took place. It was just a corporate takeover. And
it was a corporate takeover. And
we had three branches of government: the legislative, judicial.
Back then, nobody talks about it. The greenbacks were total fiat currency.
They were.
They could print whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not everybody that was that we look up to, the way that history has been told to us is exactly true. And some of these people were actually against what we're fighting for. There were people at the formation of our country that wanted what we have today. But you know what's really interesting when we talk about the border and you're showing all the bombings and stuff? I've been going to the post office fairly regularly to mail some stuff out.
Were you voting?
No, not at all. I don't participate in that process, and I encourage people not to. But no, what I was going to say is, and I haven't seen this in quite some time, but February 2nd, I noticed this, and it was, you know, they have different brochures and stuff at the post office and things that they put up for promotion, like that they want to put some emphasis on. And these are brand new printed select service.
Man,
you remember these things? David might be even too young to even remember what this is.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But this is where they used to require, like when I was growing up, I was born in 1975. Yeah, but they don't, you know, I haven't heard anything about this. But now that we have the lowest military numbers, now that we're looking like we're on the cusp of a potential World War III, and then we see what's happening with our borders. The other interesting thing is when you open this up and read it, it says, and I don't understand why they're only including males when we're supposed to be living in this.
Interesting?
Yeah, we're supposed to be living in this unisex world of whatever they're trying to put us in, this transhuman agenda. But they're wanting men, but it also says here who must register. And this is the important part. So males, U.S. citizens, and immigrants, documented and undocumented, residing in the U.S. and its territories must register if they are age 18 through 25. How many young men do you think are coming through the border?
So many.
And they're saying citizens and non-citizens, whether you're documented or not.
At the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah. And it's a brand. These are brand new. These are brand new.
Official documentation right there, guys. Check that out. Well, you know, the other part of this is, and I'm sure you understand, and we'll have to wrap up. We could go on forever, but you know, they're issuing a bond for every one of these people that come in the country as well. So the central bank's issuing a bond for everyone that comes in. So it's a huge money-making thing for them as well, because they're able to issue this bond, and then they're able to trade that bond on the open market.
Do you have information on that?
Part of the scam. David has more of it than I do.
David, I would like to find some information on that, if you don't mind, you know, sending me some.
Yeah, for sure.
Because because that's something that I look into when I had mentioned a corporate takeover of our country. There's a lot of people that speculate based off our birth certificate, social security number, the way that our parents sign the birth certificate, and all that we are legal fiction entities, an artificial entity, and that we are traded on the stock exchange as well, or on some sort of private exchange.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been looking.
The courthouse is a bank, and the post office is a bank.
Yeah, well, the post office definitely is a bank, and that's something else that I think we may see potentially is when we see more bank failures. You may start seeing the post offices reopening their banking aspect, because I've been seeing.
I got to wrap this up on Texas and Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining in. We will be back tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. your time, live on your television with the Impact Money Show, and of course, as well, the Porter Brothers Show at 11 a.m. Thanks for joining in. Yep. All right, I caught it. Good. Yeah, craziness. It's crazy.
So you end the show for a specific time zone for those two areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are we going to continue on for a little bit?
We got to wrap it up anyway. But I wanted to catch, just for our producers. They're always kind of like, they want me to adhere to the commercial time zones and everything not a little closely. I mean, you know how it is. So I try to. It's in the sandbox, you know.
We definitely need to catch up. It's been a while, and I feel like, you know, I'm like rushing, like catching up in this like little bit of a conversation. So we definitely got to communicate more.
let's plan to have you on again next week, but we can kind of catch up in between as well. But it'll be great to have you on again. And there's a lot of stuff, because like I said, the thing is about us is that we have a viewpoint. I was born in 78. You were born in 75. Our generation we're one of the most important generations right now. We saw so much. We saw what our parents went through. We were still around when stuff was even cheap. I mean, you know what I mean? You could get a house for like 50 grand or so.
50-cent candy bars, man.
50-cent candy bars.
75-cent comic books.
79-cent gasoline a gallon. 79-cent a gallon gasoline. 59. I can remember 59-cent a gallon.
I think my G.I. Joe figures are like $4.99 or something.
Yeah.
It's a travesty what's happened.
It's a travesty, and we have to save ourselves. And the monetary revolution is really one of the only ways, or the only way that I know that we can do it peacefully. And that is we take the power back by using gold, using silver, using crypto. We're doing it's at cost metals as well. You can buy gold, silver, palladium, platinum at cost. And so we have that and have some other stuff. But yeah, let's plan on having a phone call and then having you on again next week. There you go.
Got to have your precious metals.
There you go. Of course you do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I definitely would like to do that. I will put that on my calendar for next week, same time.
Let's plan on same time, same station.
And then I'll message you both privately sometime, probably tomorrow, and figure out a way that we can catch up in between now and then.
Awesome.
Yeah. Perfect.
Rice Crypto, the man. Thanks for joining.
I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate everything, man. I want to say so much about, me and your history and stuff. I appreciate everything you guys have been doing. I appreciated the patriotic day that we got to spend together without giving a lot of details.
Yes. It's a historic stuff, man. Historic stuff.
Yeah. 100%.
And we're gonna save this place one way or the other.
We got to together.
All right, brother.
See you soon.
All right. Much love, guys.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.